1206 AD. Temujin, Khan of all the Mongol people, has spent the better part of his life fighting to unify the nomadic tribes of the eastern steppes. Now he sits victorious, and at a great assembly along the Karelian River is given the title Genghis Khan, or ruler of the universe. Revered across the Eurasian steppes, but feared and despised throughout much of Asia and Europe, the name Genghis Khan still holds power almost 800 years after his death. In his mind, he believes that he has been given a mission from heaven to conquer and rule the world. It is with this belief that he will begin a series of military campaigns that will leave a trail of blood and annihilation from Beijing to Budapest. 1207, his eldest son Jochi leads a successful campaign against the forest people of southern Siberia, subduing them and accepting tributes and horses, trained falcons and thousands of new recruits for the Mongol army. Their northernmost flank is now secure. With that, the Mongols turn south across the vast Gobi Desert to the wealthy and powerful Tangut Kingdom. An attack on the Tanguts would not be without good reason. From a strategic lens, the Tanguts controlled the He Corridor, the most valuable Silk Road trade route between northern China and Central Asia. Naturally, ownership of these lands brought vast wealth to its overlords. On a more personal note, there had been plenty of bad blood between the steppe nomads and the Tanguts for centuries. Over the course of their existence, the Tanguts had kept the tribes of the steppe at odds with one another by paying them off to fight amongst themselves. History has shown that this was not an uncommon practice, as the military unification of steppe nomads could often spell doom for neighboring settled peoples. During the late years of the Mongol unification, a defeated tribal leader fled south across the desert. The Tanguts offered him their protection, considering the defeated leader as a pawn for engendering future conflict between factions within the emerging Mongol states. Using this reproach as a pretext, Genghis launched raids across the border. From 1205 to 1208, Mongol attacks plagued the northern territories. Tangut armies found themselves hopelessly outmatched on the open field, even if they often outnumbered the Mongols many times over. In order to weather the storm, the Tanguts withdrew into their fortified towns and cities. Armies of nomadic horsemen typically did not have the capability to build the siege engines required to storm fortified settlements. At this stage in their evolution, the Mongols were no different. Nonetheless, it is at this point that the Mongols would demonstrate their ingenuity and ability to win despite their technological shortfalls in siege warfare. In 1209, Genghis exploits his mastery of the battlefield by leading over 30,000 Mongols across the border with the intent to conquer all of the Tangut Kingdom. Back in the Tangut capital, Yinchuan, Emperor Li Yanchuan receives word of the advancing Mongol forces and immediately dispatches messengers requesting assistance from his powerful neighbor in the east. After years of strained relations with their former vassals, the Jurchen are all too pleased to see the Tanguts under threat of invasion and respond by stating, "It is to our advantage when our enemies attack each other. Wherein lies the danger to us?" The Tanguts thus face the full fury of the Mongol war machine alone. On paper, they boast a vast force, with almost 300,000 fighting men, outnumbering the Mongols by a factor of 10 to 1. However, many Tangut soldiers had little to no combat experience, while the Mongols had spent decades honing their strategic and tactical capabilities through constant warfare. 1209. Genghis led his army to the Yellow River, where his horses rested after the long trek across the Gobi Desert. With his men and horses ready, they moved against the northern city of Wulahai. Near the city gates, a large Tangut army marched out to confront them. Few details of the engagement have survived, but we know that the Tanguts were utterly destroyed, with Wulahai falling soon after. Genghis continued marching along the Yellow River, capturing several more cities before reaching the fortress of Kiamen. The stronghold guarded the only pass through the Herland Mountains, leading to the capital, Yinchuan. The vast fortification contained a garrison of some 70,000 soldiers, with another 50,000 in reserve nearby. Indeed, the Mongols had neither the manpower nor the siege equipment to capture it. After a 2-month siege, the Mongols had had enough. They dismantled their yurts and began to slowly withdraw. And seeing this, the garrison commander ordered his forces to chase and destroy the enemy. But as Tangut troops poured out of the fortress into the fields, the Mongols now had the battlefield on their terms. They promptly wheeled around the entire force and fell upon the disorganized Tangut formations, crushing them completely. With the garrison now thoroughly depleted, Mongol soldiers easily overran the walls, finishing off the remaining men and pushing on to Yinchuan. The capital was well fortified and hosted an army of some 150,000 soldiers. With these conditions, the Mongols decided to settle in for another siege. But finding themselves no closer to capturing the city 6 months later, Genghis was desperate to break the stalemate. A plan was devised to flood the capital by diverting the Yellow River into the city. Unfortunately for the Mongols, the dike used for the diversion collapsed before it could cause any serious damage. What's worse is that the resulting flood wiped out the Mongol encampment, drowning many and forcing the army to relocate to higher ground. Despite their failure to capture the capital, the Mongols remained undefeated in the field. And with much of the state's crops destroyed and the approach of widespread famine, Li Yanquan, Emperor of the Tanguts, agreed to submit his domain to Mongol supremacy and thus became a vassal of the empire. To cement this agreement, the emperor offered his daughter in marriage to Genghis, as well as an annual tribute of camels, falcons, and textiles, and the obligation to send military aid when requested. In later years, the Tanguts would refuse to supply troops to the Mongols in their time of need, thus breaking their vassalage and invoking the wrath of Genghis. With this, their fate would be sealed, and 20 years later, the Mongols would return to sow the fields with salt, to burn and dismantle the cities, to slaughter and enslave the Tangut people, and ultimately, to ensure that no record of their existence would remain.